he said, because he's right on. He's correct. And with that, I yield a minute and a half to the gentleman from Florida, Mr. Gates.
Gentleman from Florida is recognized for 1.5 minutes.
Thank the gentleman for yielding, and I fully associate myself with the comments from the gentleman from New York condemning anti-Semitism, full stop, entirely appropriate thing to do. I just think it's curious how we ended up here. I mean, we are having this debate right now because Democrats had an objection to something said by a Democrat. And so they launch off on this drafting project. And then lo and behold, I hear all the remarks on the floor, and a lot of the substance in the resolution is about President Trump and criticizing him and trying to open wounds. And so this is unfortunately becoming the new mantra of the left in the Congress. When they've got a problem that they can't solve, it must be President Trump's fault. It's a lot of the sentiment that we see echoed out of the Judiciary Committee, where there is no Russian collusion. The Mueller report is about to drop. Democrats know it is not going to allege Russian collusion, and so they have to launch an 81-pronged investigation to harass our president. They can't get their own house in order, so everything's got to be the fault of a president who is creating more economic opportunity, reducing unemployment, ending wars, and doing a heck of a job for the country. I thank the gentleman for Georgia, and I yield back.
Finish to the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Gomer.
Gentleman from Texas is recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. According to Proverbs, something that people who are practicing Jews and Christians believe, says there are 7 things that are detestable to the Lord. One is haughty eyes, another lying tongue, another hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict within the community. It goes so far as to say these are things the Lord hates. So the word hate is not wrong in the Jewish and Christian tradition, but anything beyond this is wrong. And yes, there have been persecution of Christians, there have been persecution of Muslims, but anybody who has persecuted a people in the name of Christianity was not acting as a Christian. That is not part of the faith. But what makes this so dangerous, and the reason I will vote against this resolution, is because we came here because of an anti-Semitic remark. And we came here to condemn anti-Semitism. But this resolution, as changed up over the last hour, now condemns just about everything. And the reason that is so dangerous is that anti-Semitism, hatred for the children of Israel, is a very special kind of hatred that should never be watered down. There has never been a persecution of a people like the Jewish people. From 1933 to 1945, over 6 million killed. And it started with little things, hateful remarks made about the children of Israel that grew and grew. And as if it was okay because it was made by somebody who had a grudge, it was let go, and it built until it led to the death of 6 million Jews. And we have to say, no, we will not let it go on. And that's why I'll vote against it.
I'm a little frustrated because I heard a lot about love. And one thing that I know is it's not because of the lack of love that we're not able to feed our children. It's not because of the lack of love that we are able to house people. It's not the lack of love that we are unable to save people from dying because they don't have health care. It's not because of lack of love that you were able to finish college because you got help with childcare.
If you get a good education and you work hard, you can do a lot. But love also helps. So I think the churches, being the son of a pastor, the love that you can nourish these folks is amazing.
Love has nothing to do with this. And if you want to bring love into this, you got to bring radical love. Because radical love means that we radically love every single person within our communities to make sure that we are providing for them the basic rights as humans. That's what love is. And that's the godly thing to do. So if we want to talk about faith, we also have to remember that we can't pray our problems away.
I don't find anywhere in the scripture where Jesus said that it was Caesar's job to feed the poor and to clothe the widows and to take care of the orphans. He said it was the church's. It's the church's responsibility.
You can't pray for your children to be fed, so you're not crying because they're crying and they can't go to bed. You cannot pray for your medical bills to disappear. You cannot pray for the mold to stop poisoning your children in the classrooms. The other thing that frustrates me is people who have experienced poverty, who have gotten the straps for their bootstraps, who sit and talk about how we shouldn't do anything for the next person.
Like some of these folks have said in here, I'm a product of being in poverty and found the only way out was to work my tail off. It's the American dream to come to a place where you have the opportunity to be as poor as you want to be or as wealthy as you want to be.
See, as someone who knows severe poverty, I lived in a refugee camp, on the floor, no water, nothing. And I hear somebody say here in the United States, they're fine with their grandparents not having running water?
My grandparents never had running water. They died not having running water.
And that's supposed to be okay? The conversations we get to have is how we are responsible for fully funding our schools so all of our children have the opportunities we have as we sit in this room. We get to talk about the kind of opportunities we have as government to make sure healthcare is provided to everybody so that we don't have people dying in the United States because they can't afford insulin. The conversation we get to have is making sure that there are no children going to sleep hungry or being shamed in classrooms and in lunchrooms because their families don't have enough money to pay for their lunch. The conversation we get to have about the kind of poverty we have in this country is the kind of poverty that says it is okay for us to take photo pictures with veterans and be okay with the fact that they're sleeping on the streets here in the United States. So as an immigrant, as someone who came to this country, hearing about American exceptionalism and prosperity, I am appalled that we get to sit here and have conversations as Americans about being the most charitable country in the world and not being charitable enough to house our homeless, feed our...
Is expired. January 22nd, 2015, my son Grant was working at a Quick Trip in Mesa, Arizona. An illegal alien came in, dumped a jar of change out on the counter and wanted to buy a pack of cigarettes. Grant went to start counting the change. The man said, "What, you're not going to give me my cigarettes?" Grant said, "Hey, I got to count your change." At that moment, this man produced a gun. Grant did everything he was supposed to do. Grant gave him the cigarettes. And as soon as Grant did, this illegal alien shot my son in the face, killing him instantly. He then stepped over Grant's body, grabbed a couple more packs of cigarettes, stepped back over Grant, and turned and looked at my son. He wanted to make sure he was dead, because if he wasn't, he was going to shoot him again. These are stories that are happening every single day. As reported by North Carolina Fire, since 2013, there have been over 8,500 sexual assaults against children committed by illegal aliens. 90% of our heroin and fentanyl is coming across our southern border, and 78% of that number is coming across in Arizona, where we're from. 70,000 people a year are overdosing from heroin laced with fentanyl. How many more people need to die? How many more people need to overdose for Pelosi to come to the table and do her job? How many people need to die for Ocasio-Cortez to stop her ridiculous rhetoric about concentration camps? Marianne and I have been fighting for a long time. Our children are worth it. And Marianne's right. It's blood on their hands. And I'm honored to be with these gentlemen because they're fighting for us and they're fighting for you. You know, I made a promise right after Grant died that I was going to keep fighting for Grant, fighting for the American people. And what the American people don't understand is it's going to happen to them or to somebody they know at this point with so many people coming across our border. If the Democrats want to have so much contempt for our president that they won't come to the table, well, then guess what? I've got contempt for them.